Welcome to the Cyber Call, the podcast by Ride at Boom for managed service providers looking to stay ahead in an ever-changing world of cybersecurity. Each week, we dive into the latest threats, trends, and real-world strategies to help MSPs protect their clients and grow their businesses. Let's build a safer, stronger community together.
All right, welcome everybody. Happy Monday. We've been away for 2 weeks and great to have everybody back with us. I'll let y'all kind of get on in here. We'll do a little bit of banter. I'm going to just do some checking here, team, on the making sure things are coming through. I know it is President's Day here in the state. I'm assuming, Kelvin, you guys don't celebrate President's Day.
No. Strangely enough, we don't.
Why?
I understand that it's actually a day off in like a lot of places. Canada has Family Day today.
Okay.
So like half of my team this morning in the meeting, I was like, hey, where's everyone? And Ash was like, yeah, it's a day off like pretty much everywhere, right? So yeah.
Got it. What I am intrigued about, Kelvin, is I did not realize that Jake Paul is dating or his fiance is from your homeland there.
Yeah, absolutely. Jetta Leerdam, something like that is her name. Jutta. She's an Olympic skater, and
Yes.
that's pretty much the only thing we rock at the Olympics. It's skating. It's the only thing we know how to do right.
You guys are ass in that sport now.
It's always we dominate in one thing and then we don't do anything else good. Like there's nothing that we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
PowerShell?
You got that, and you also have ASLM, the stock, which is,
It's absolutely amazing. But again, we rock at one thing and the rest we suck at.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I hope you guys all had a fantastic weekend. If you were at Ride at Boom, thanks so much for joining us. And this is kind of like a segue coming out of that. As I said, our 2-week hiatus. And I thought, we really, I was blown away by the pre-day sessions. Why so we could call them those? Yeah, we got a lot of
freeze there. I want to make sure.
Yeah, a lot of freeze, Steve. But Wes, your session was standing room only on Tuesday night, and then I'm walking through the hallway, and I look at Kelvin's. Not only is it standing room only, he's got like this caravan of people in the hall trying to listen to him and take notes from afar. So I thought that there was such a focus on Microsoft, SIP, and the fact that so much of I think this year we had this incredible focus with Microsoft actually being there, being on stage, having a presence, wanting to really engage with MSPs. And then Kelvin being, called now a hunk. That was you, Wes. Sorry.
Well, let's start the rumor it was Kelvin.
Yeah.
Don't please.
But I wanted to kind of hone in on Kelvin's session because he had such perspective, not only coming out of the SIP certification, but then we had this Microsoft-centered session, and then you had a final session, Kelvin, with Lior, who was the director of Intune, on the final day. And from what I heard backstage, Kelvin, you feel like you really didn't do enough and that you'd like to do more next year, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, so much more. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. So much more. No, really. It was an amazing event. It was crazy. The pre-day, right after that, the next day, I had another session at like 8 something or 9:30 together with Monica French and Lior Bella at Microsoft. Also, really well-received session where actually, I think maybe the most intense session I've been in because there was some venting going on by MSPs, which was really good to see because they normally don't get the chance to do that towards Microsoft. They get to do it to Microsoft, but it's never received by someone at Microsoft. And this was a moment for them to actually be like, hey, Microsoft, listen up. This is stuff that we suffer from. So that was really good. And it was a lot. It was a lot.
Fair. So, got a lot of people joining us today, Kelvin. By the way, you out there, thank you so much for being out here. Keep the chat going. why don't you share, if you did attend, what sessions you really enjoyed. But with that backdrop, Kelvin, I wanted to kind of set the stage on the SIP certification. I stood correctly, thank you, in front of everybody at Microsoft by you. No, but wait, I was like, and Kelvin with 12,000. What is it? 13,000 now?
No, it's still we're still around 12.
Oh, okay. I might have said 11. You're like 12. 12,000 MSPs. Kelvin, I wanted to kind of hone in today with Wes and Stephen on, what your aha were from that session, meaning, what still surprised you on the questions you received? What maybe made you kind of, joyful about what you're seeing in turn of how people are starting to get their postures in line? But kind of like the both sides of the equation, because collectively, I think you probably in that session with standing room only probably had about 150 plus people. And then the other sessions altogether, probably, 300 plus that collectively in your just kind of little, sphere of influence there that were interacting with you. So I think most of the folks know you here, but just in case one or two are chiming in for the first time, Kelvin, and may not, would you mind just giving a quick overview, and then I'll hand it over to Wes and Stephen. And by the way, I'll let them do a quick intro because not everybody knows Stephen maybe as well. So Kelvin,
Stephen is amazing, so he deserves a lot more intro time than me. I'm going to make mine super short. Multiple times Microsoft MVP, founder of SIP, and the CTO at Lime Networks, an MSP in the Netherlands. That's the micro introduction. The longer one is I am a huge nerd.
I love that.
Can confirm.
We love your nerdiness. Wes, most know you, but real quick intro.
Yeah, what's up? You got Wes Spencer, co-founder of Empath. Been in the MSP space since my perch days way back in 2016. That's when I met you, Andrew, and the rest is history. I love CyberCall and love helping MSPs out in their growth.
Perfect. And Stephen, I'll let folks tell you, you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, but first, a huge thank you to you and the 11 others on the advisory council for Write a Boom that had a massive impact this year on shaping the content and making sure that, things went off, I think, really well and well received by, the 900 or so MSPs at the event. So, Stephen, first.
No worries. Thank you. Andrew, thanks for the opportunity to be on the council. I think we did a really great job this year. It was nice. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Steve Hicks. I am the security practice manager of an MSP out in California. We're a completely privately held MSP with about 400 clients, and I'm both the face of it and running the department as well here. So I'm literally on the ground with the rest of y'all. So hopefully I can have some value here. Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Yeah, and congrats on coming in second
2 years in a row. Let's go.
In the CTF. So, all right. So Wes, let's kick things off here and get on into this. And again, folks out there, please let the questions roll in. I like hearing some of those that we could, bring on in here as well. So
for sure. So we were talking just a little banner before we went live about just all the pre days, right? And Kelvin, I remember. So I want to set the scene for you, Kelvin. Here I am stressing out, this is, for me, it was brand new content. We were going at the same time as your session. Right. And so I'm working up to the last minute and getting everything ready. And I'm walking down the hallway and I see all these people all the way out by the escalators. I'm like, wow, look how many people have come for my pre-day. This is so amazing. And I'm cutting through the people and I see all of them are lined up for your session. I'm like, no, I was like, but I can understand why. And so Kelvin, I wanted to start with this. What was something, with that many people that are hungry for not just SIP, but like all the things that you were teaching in that pre-day, what stood out to you about where MSPs are still at today when it comes to M365 security?
Ooh, that's a hard one because it's a two-sided coin pretty much. Number one is I love how hungry everyone was for education, but it really sucks how hungry everyone was for education. It's upsetting to see that this is the only chance that a lot of these people had to actually get educated on a platform they use every single day. Because my session wasn't, look at SIP and look at how to use these things. My session was our session, I should be saying. Sorry, I had an entire team there helping me. And our session was about how do I manage M365 with the highest level of efficiency. It wasn't use this tool. It was, you need to understand these things. And it was very much it's amazing that so many people were able to get education, but it was also, it sucked a little understanding that these people deserve more of this type of education and are not getting enough of it right now.
Yeah, and there's changes in the winds, I feel like. And to, brag on you a little bit, Andrew, I'm starting to hear from other conference organizers that like they're starting to feel like I owe my audience more, and we've really got to invest back in like what outcomes are people getting out of taking their time away from the day, right? And I know that's a whole angle we could chase for the rest of this hour if we wanted to, but Kelvin, I think you put the nail on the head there that I think the audience deserves more, right? And we go to a conference and all we're hearing is a sales pitch. All we're hearing is watered down 30-minute talks that really don't do anything other than point to buy my thing. That really erodes not just the value of the conference, but even damages, I think, where we want to be growing as an industry. Don't you think?
100%. It's the getting pitch slapped while you're expecting education is probably the most terrible feeling you can have. I had everyone saying about the entire event that they didn't feel like that in any of the sessions that were about education. Like they all felt like they were actually learning something. And that's amazing to hear. It's we want that in more places. People should, if there's any event organizer listening to this right now, the one thing that you should be focused on is removing the pitch aspect from the entire conference and making it hard educational content.
Yeah, because we all know this, all four of us on the call and probably the whole audience, the more you educate and teach, the more it just positions you and the company that you represent as, hey, these guys are legitimate. And I've seen that time and time again. So I completely agree with you. It's funny how we don't have to resort to the pitch if we genuinely care about our audience and genuinely want them to learn and grow.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things about this conference, right? There's not 50 vendors trying to jam things down your throat in the big hall. They're all sell elsewhere. I mean, we get one diamond sponsor, and Kyle did a great job at Huntress, right? And we're not sitting there just being like product.
Yeah,
we got it. It's a good conference.
Yeah, Kyle's talk was so good too.
It was.
I love seeing him. Things didn't go well. We had our MSP buddy come in and literally fix the Wi-Fi in the middle. It's so gangster. But it was just great to hear him just be himself. And he and I were talking back, behind the scene for a minute, and like just seeing where his life has gone personally and how much he's invested back into just like he's in just such a great mental state, and you just see him exude all that. And to me, that gives me encouragement that as a company as big as Huntress continues to grow, they don't have to move off that mission of being education first and community first. I love that.
Wes, I couldn't agree more. It seemed like Kyle was, you and I have known him for, like I said, back in the Perch days of 2016, if not earlier, when it was just really he, Andrew, and the two other founders. He seemed more back to those days than he's ever been. And I have to give, I thank you to you and everybody and Kelvin for, I think respecting the ethos of what people want. And so I'm really grateful for it.
Yep. So Kelvin, going back to that conversation of the pre-day, I think you're right. I think we have this challenge of the Microsoft world is evolving constantly. We also have this world that we have new entrants coming into the MSP space every single day, meaning MSPs are hiring new kids that don't have this experience, that are hungry to learn. And so the onus is on us to make sure that we are constantly educating, and not just the new things that are happening, but have a conduit for everybody to learn, because people are coming in, left and right into our industry with no prior knowledge. And so maybe a question for you, just as sort of like a follow-up, right? What still kind of shocks you in 2026 that exists, like questions or misunderstandings in our MSP world that you feel like should not be a shocking thing today?
The amount of people that don't realize that they have a full security suite available to them with Microsoft 365 Business Premium. it's one of the things that popped up a lot during the session where I was explaining things about specific license levels and the abilities you have, like conditional access and all of these kind of things. Business Premium isn't just a SKU you sell for the heck of it. It is very feature complete. It can replace most of your security suite that you have as an MSP. And a lot of people don't realize how far Microsoft has invested in that. So that's one of the things that shocks me most. Like people not realizing they have spam filtering, they have an XDR, they have they have all these options, conditional access, they have Intune, so device management available, they have mobile device management. There's like this laundry list of things, and people don't realize they have it available, which is kind of sad, but also says something about how poorly Microsoft has educated people in the past, how poorly they've explained what all of their products can do. So it's very two-sided again.
Well, let's chase that thread for just 30 seconds more if we could. All right, Kelvin, I just met you. I'm a new hire at Insight, and I need to learn and grow. Like, what would you point me to? Like, where do you start?
That is one of the most difficult questions you could have asked, because at my MSP, we say that people need to start learning the Microsoft certifications, but that is very dry material. That's very, I don't want to say it's bad education, but it's not MSP-focused education. It's very enterprise-driven. And because of that, it's not the material that you would need. I guess I could also make a plug for MPath here and say, like, hey, start looking at actual MSP educational material. That's the thing I tell people to look at. Like, it's the one thing that is missing a lot in our industry. Everything is very broad and enterprise focused. When you look at Microsoft or Cisco or all of these other places, it's always enterprise focused. But we need more practical, applicable knowledge, and that's something that we don't really have. We're lucky that stuff like MPath exists. Actually, Nick Ross on his YouTube explains a lot of really good MSP content for free. Just go to YouTube, MSP by MSPs, MSP for MSPs, one of the two. Yep. Nick Ross, Microsoft MVP, amazing guy. Look him up, because that type of content is what you need as an MSP.
Huge Nick Ross fan.
Yeah, Nick does a phenomenal job. You know, the other person that's really doing, I think, an amazing job is Ben over at SaaS Alerts. Ben Jones. His channel also on YouTube is starting to explode. And you know, he was a former security director for an MSP. So this is not somebody that just has only sat on the vendor side. So he sat in the Stephen Hicks seat, he sat in the Kelvin Taylor seat. And then, you know, now that he's got this perspective of looking at, you know, really just thousands and thousands of attacks on a daily basis, can really kind of start to think about this and operationalize it for MSPs. So another good one. I'll find his YouTube and put it in chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben is so smart. It's also really fun just to watch, because he has a lot of good content. He made a review video about like a product release check a while ago, and he sent me the link. I was like, holy crap, this is so good. It was actually really good educational content. I love that.
So Eric's got a really good point in chat. Microsoft basically just realized MSPs exist within the last like year and a half, something to that effect. Ask Lior. He'll tell you.
So this is something that we actually discussed during the Microsoft session with Monica French as well. It's not that we didn't exist before. It's that our impact was underestimated by Microsoft. Officially, MSPs are only responsible for 2% of the revenue at Microsoft, but we are responsible for 40% of the growth. So that's a weird comparison, right? It's because MSPs themselves fall into a different classification as where actual growth comes from, because we connect all these smaller businesses, all these things. So there's always been a conflict at Microsoft for that.
It's true. I mean, and we support the front line of the vast bulk of businesses in the world, right? That's a big deal. And the point is well taken, that it's very hard to find education dedicated to a very specific thing where you have, 500 bosses and none of them report to you in an MSP. So it's a good topic.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point, Kelvin, is that, if you take a step back and look at macroeconomics and the stock market, right? I think one of the big drivers behind the scenes is rate of change. We look at Microsoft stock right now. It's actually in a, fall precipitously in the last few months. Well, why is that? Is because they had amazing growth, and then the market's always front running, right? It's looking quarter over quarter at things, and now we're starting to see a rate of change deceleration. It's not that Microsoft is losing money by any stretch; they're making money hand over fist. But again, markets discount when rate of change is falling, stock prices fall. And what, to your point, Kelvin, is that they're starting to realize this segment of MSPs now with private equity that are rivaling the size of enterprises. You take a Thrive, an ECI, et cetera, with hundreds of thousands of endpoints. Well, they can start to segment out that group and start to report on that group, and you're starting to see rate of change acceleration in a group, that can do wonders for a stock. So, that's my behind the curtains thinking of how this is going and where we'll start to see this play out. I don't know what your thoughts might be on that, Wes, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I am by nowhere near the level of expertise you are in just, the markets, but I absolutely can see that that's where things are going. It's a tumultuous time right now, right? I mean, just globally looking at stocks, looking at what's happening, from an infrastructure perspective, what AI has done, what Anthropic sort of tanked the market, what OpenClaw is doing. It's really to me, it's a fun time. I don't get nervous about it. I get excited about watching where things are going. And so it's going to be tumultuous. It's going to have some craziness to it for sure. And maybe just to circle back to Microsoft, Kelvin, I agree. I do think that I had some conversations, not nearly as many as you did, with those same Microsoft folks. And I'm hearing the same thing, that they are starting to really care and understand. It just takes a while, the behemoth that they are. It's not like there's one person that just, magically, waves the wand and everything is better. So but I'm just glad that there's progress. And I think a company that big, that's what it takes, is consistent progress over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe another question for you, Kelvin, is, you probably got asked a zillion questions, right? If you were to kind of boil all those questions down into some overall high level thoughts, what would you say were some of the tendencies of what people are still asking about, what they might want to know, or maybe even things that you're like, they still don't know X, Y, and Z? What would you say from all those conversations you've had?
I think the one thing that a lot of MSPs are still asking is it's more about the operational side and the technical side. How do I implement CS controls? How do I implement what's it called? Computer Essentials or Essentials 8 in Australia? Or how do I implement the CISA framework? Or how do I implement Scuba? It's questions about how do I operationally convince my client that we're going to make these changes? It's not how do I technically, it's how am I going to convince my client? What impact is it going to have? These are questions MSPs still struggle with a lot. And they're, I think, the hardest to answer, because every client is unique in the same sense that every snowflake is unique, but they're not unique enough to not apply an entire framework to them.
I think that's a huge point, Kelvin. From the ground portion, when I'm talking to a client or speaking with a client, I can say, hey, listen, here are the technical changes you need to make. You need to, turn on BitLocker or have EDR. Hopefully most people are past those things. And those are very concrete and tactical. People can understand, oh, okay, I need to flip this switch in this thing to do this other thing. But when you come to someone and say, we need to develop a written information security program for you, and it's going to be based on this framework that's, out there, and it doesn't necessarily impact your day-to-day business, but it will impact it negatively, make things harder, but you may drop insurance rate. It's very hard to explain that to clients, to say they want to get to base level tactical solutions, and you're trying to speak as a program, which is definitely better. That's a real hard message to get to clients. Yeah. So I agree.
Yeah, I think that, look, I think there's the difference. It's, I think back to the days of 2010 with Gary Pica, right? And he used to talk about a business translator, right? We can't be using our jargon, right, Steve, when we talk to our customers, right? That's our stuff. That's for us. Frameworks, things like that. What we have to talk about is end results to customers, right? Yes, we have policies. Yes, we have frameworks. Yes, we have standards. That's all about what we need to drive efficiencies in our business and keep those companies in line and compliant. Yes, we understand that, but we have to talk about things like their contractual obligations, how we grease the skids of revenue for them, things that, impact their supply chain, risks to their revenue streams. If we're not talking at their level where it means something to what the owner has on his or her mind, it's just, again, a bunch of zeros and ones to them. And that's why, we hear a lot more, how much does it cost, than what's the impact if I don't do this in my business. And we have to think about getting our customers to start to think about, if we're speaking their language, the answer should be, well, Wes, what does it mean if I don't do this? What's the implications to the business if I don't do these things? And frameworks and policies, although incredibly important, don't do it for, don't give them that oomph, if you know what I'm saying, Wes.
Yep.
I do. Eric Bowles has this really cool thing he does, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's kind of the glory of me butchering it. He has this whole thing of like, he went in to get his car fixed, and the mechanic's like, hey, you got this auto something or other that needs to be fixed. And immediately Eric kind of looked at the guy and goes, oh, okay. And then the mechanic had the wisdom to say, so it doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you're entering onto a highway and you really gas it and you need to get out in front of another car, it's entirely possible that the car could completely stall out. You don't want to have that happen when you're going, getting up to 75 miles an hour and all these cars are rushing by. And he's like, fix it, whatever it takes, fix it. And I just thought that was such a cool example of just being able to make it relate back to where, the person says, I don't care what the cost is for that. I can't put my family in jeopardy because I don't want to spend $200 to fix this thing. You got to be kidding me. Now, obviously the scale is higher, and with cyber, it's a little bit more nuanced to get through those discussions, because there's a world, Steve, this too, of like, I don't want to introduce undue fear, but I do have to talk about actual risk. And Steve, what would your thoughts be on that?
So Brian Blakely did an amazing at the end of the add-on vCISO thing. He basically said, we did a role play, and he was speaking to one of the audience members. He goes, all right, so here's what you need to do. And he starts speaking Tolkien. And nobody understood what he was talking about. And he's like, that's what your clients hear when you say your exchange conditional access isn't working with your Intune, which of course is a problem with Defender for 365 BitLocker. And everybody goes, uh-huh. And the point is, clients don't understand that. And we have a really hard time explaining business risk and the cost and the impact of the actual organization beyond flip switch in box to do thing on form. Now, Andrew, wouldn't it be interesting if we had like some kind of a program that could teach people how to do that and then give them a certification at the end? I think that'd be a good idea. We should do that.
Yeah, we should.
That's weird. It's a good one, huh?
Yeah. We're Brian Blakely, and we're coming out with a security leadership certification. So stay tuned for those that are interested. You can email me at andrew@writeaboom.com. In fact, the inaugural one is going to be at the Cyber Show coming up here in March. And you'll get to hear Jen Easterly, Wes, now the CEO of RSA. You'll get that bonus. And you'll also get to hear Rachel Wilson, who is the head of data security for Morgan Stanley.
Right on.
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited about all of those things. That's awesome. Hey, one last question for you, Kelvin. Then I want Steve to jump in too, because I know he's probably got a million things he wants to know. So if you had the ability to wave Kelvin's magic Dutch wand and see into a whole bunch of Microsoft tenants, which you might actually kind of be able to do, how many of them would you consider like some modicum of, I'm comfortable with what they've done and what they've set up? I don't want to just say like secure, because that's a difficult conversation to have, but would you say I'm satisfied with their tenant security? What would you say that percentage might be?
As a nerd, 0.
Okay,
because there's always something better. There's always something cooler. There's always better implementations.
Yeah.
But that's looking at it from a very like zoomed in lens, and that's not fair to anyone.
Right.
Looking at it from the business perspective and like how many MSPs actually secure their clients correctly and how many MSPs are actually secure themselves, it's a surprisingly high number. Probably somewhere in the 70% range. Okay. Like what I'm seeing is more and more MSPs are implementing the correct things. Also, because our vendors are finally forcing them to implement the correct things. Let me state that too, because you're seeing the shift at Microsoft, especially. they are forcing you to no longer be able to add any app to your tenant. That's a change they made recently. They're forcing you, when you log onto the admin portals, you must have MFA. There's no more choice. You must have MFA. You get a pop-up. You have to log in. Even if you don't have conditional access, MFA is enforced for admin portals. So there's a lot of these small changes that Microsoft is doing that are over time forcing security on MSPs, because we've resisted it for a very long time. The reality is that it's just making all of us so much better. Like, honestly, around 70%.
Yeah, Kelvin, I was going to ask you, how much, this is probably a silly question, but how much do you think we've been trained so long that ease of use is the way to go, right, by manufacturers? And do you think this shift is going to help us as MSPs, with our clients? Like, out of the box, defaults are much more, challenging, or, it's more about security than ease of use. Do you think this is going to help grease the skids for some of those conversations?
Some of them, yes, absolutely. The biggest problem is in a lot of landscapes, our vendors sort of let go of their parental obligation to us and said, like, you know what, if you want to stick a fork into your socket, go right ahead. And Microsoft is very guilty of that for the longest time, where they said M365 is built for collaboration, not for security. They made that statement ages ago, saying
so
like,
many
hey,
times.
And that was because we've asked for it. As the SMB, as MSPs, we asked for collaboration. And that means that they had to sacrifice security in a lot of cases. I think that the active shift towards everything should be secure by default, even Microsoft's secure by design initiative internally is helping a lot in pushing that forward. I do think that MSPs are still lagging behind in some cases, especially when it comes to knowledge about security. Like, if we're forcing security on them, they'll accept it and they'll have to use it. But the actual knowledge around security is still pretty low. There's still a security poverty line that a lot of MSPs fall under.
So that's a good point, Kelvin. So I think, first of all, let's all take a second to thank Mr. Morgan over here, because some of the reasons we're becoming more secure in general is conferences like Write-A-Boom. Like, that's a pretty big deal. But now, Kelvin, I'm sure your MSP, just like mine, is fantastic and perfect, and everyone in the client call we're all great. But if, for example, you found that some MSPs were dangerously overconfident in Microsoft 365 security, where do you think that they are most overconfident and they should not be?
For the MSPs that use it, conditional access. If an MSP is using conditional access and they are they are deploying it at their clients, they are ridiculously overconfident. And I've seen it so much. It's one of the prime examples that Bo Bullock at Black Hills uses. It's super easy to spoof a device ID, but a lot of MSPs still go like, yeah, no, mobile devices are excluded from my conditional access policies. They don't need multi-factor authentication because, that'll be an issue when they sign up the first time, or that, like a million excuses. And all that a hacker does is change their user agent for their thing to be a mobile device, and boom, they're done. That's it. It's that easy. So a lot of MSPs are still super confident in that.
So that goes back to our other conversation, right, where we were talking about how it's challenging to explain to people the risk of a thing, right? And in terms of business, people, all the owner or the risk holder, the MSP or the client will say is, hey, this is a pain. I don't want to have to put multi-factor on my phone. Being able to say, well, they're going to change their user agent on you, and that's going to allow them to log in as a mobile phone, even on a device. The client's going to hear, Sanskrit. But when you can say, hey, but the point is that what someone can do is literally bypass all of your security by just changing this one thing in Firefox. Now people start understanding it a little bit better. The risk is your whole security stack can be defeated. So I think that's a really good point to point out, like, hey, you're real confident about this, except for you're missing the fact that you could just be mobile on your user agent at any time. So I think we see that a decent amount when it comes to people that are spoofing things. Like we get that all the time in our SOC. That's a good one. Cool. Okay. Given that, besides conditional access, when you see attackers exploiting things, what do you think, since almost all of Microsoft 365 is configuration-based issues, occasionally they actually get broken into, but 99% of the security problems in 365 are configuration. What is the number one configuration mistake you think you see attackers exploiting more than anything else?
I don't want to call this a configuration mistake. I want to call this one insecure by default. Microsoft allowing guest users to enumerate everything inside of a tenant by default. Anything, which means any description field, all your users, all your groups. Any user can use the Graph API, including guest users, inside of your environment to list every single part of your configuration. That means all your users, all your groups, the descriptions fields you've entered, but also stuff like the configuration of your conditional access policies, the configuration of your Intune policies, because, hey, a user needs to be able to retrieve those to be able to receive them. Like they need to be able to do that.
Kelvin, it's just a quick question, for MSPs that may not have used Graph Runner, would this be a good exercise, do you feel?
Yes.
And can you just explain that for people? This is created by Bo Bullock of Black Hills. What it is, I'll put the URL to the GitHub, but why is that important to do your own, a little bit of red teaming there using Graph Runner?
It's insane to realize how much data a guest user is able to retrieve in your tenant. And a lot of people don't realize that when a SharePoint file is shared with a user, they get a invisible guest user in your M365 tenant. And that means that it's very, very easy for a user to just imagine I call your reception and I say, hey, I'm the IT guy. I don't need you to do anything really around security. I just need you to create a new file on your desktop, please, and right-click and share it with me. That's all. There's no security risk here, and I don't need your password. Don't worry about it. I just need you to share a blank file with me for a second because I was testing if it would work with external email addresses. Your reception will do that, or anyone like that is not really focused on security will help you with that. And then they have access. And what they do is they run something like Graph Runner, which starts enumerating every single thing that user can access. And that can be a lot of data, accidentally shared files with public sharing links. They have access to that. Imagine that someone in your administration department right-clicked a file saying final contract, sales numbers, blah, 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 and they sent it to someone just to look at once. They are able to enumerate that. They're able to enumerate conditional access policies. They're able to enumerate Intune policies. Now imagine, inside of one of your Intune policies, you set a password to set on all your devices. They are now able to use that password on your devices. So Graph Runner, with just a guest account, is able to give you actual device logons and so much more information than anyone is supposed to be able to have. So that's such a huge misconfiguration. That's the biggest one.
So Kelvin, how do you fix it? Where are you just turning off enumeration for guests, or what's your solution?
That's it. It's a single checkbox. The worst part about all of this Microsoft 365 insecure by default things, they're located in two screens in the M365 portal: Entra, Properties, Security. Those are the only two screens you need to go to set 4 or 5 checkboxes and already increase your tenant security by tenfold. It's insane.
That's fantastic. That's a good one, everybody. And by the way, SIP will do that too. Just throwing that out there. So
yeah, SIP will do that too. But I'm not here to market a product.
Oh, I'm not involved. So okay, Kelvin. Now, so we've done a lot about talking about the cloud 365 security, the 2 places you can check some very significant tenant security checkboxes. But let's talk about endpoints for a little bit. Do you think endpoint security with EDR and XDR, MDR has officially taken a backseat to SaaS? And if so, do you think MSPs are focused on that well enough yet? Or are we still focused on not getting your computer encrypted?
Security is layers, like an onion, blah, blah, blah.
Defense in depth.
Identity is much more important than any device. And you should regard identity as your crown jewels and your device as cattle. The moment that it breaks, you replace it. The moment it gets hacked, you replace it. As long as your identity is secure, you can do whatever the hell you want with a device. Because over time, we've moved to an industry where devices are interchangeable. If my laptop breaks right now, I'll just whip out my tablet and start checking my email on that and doing my work there. Simple as that.
Same thing.
Most office workers work exactly in the same manner. If their connection doesn't work on their laptop, they no longer go to IT immediately. They just start a hotspot on their mobile phone and go like, "Oh, I know how to connect to this." And that's people who are not tech educated. They're able to do that. So there's a lot of these things around. Oh, you have to protect your device, or you have to protect the edge, which I hate even more because the edge no longer exists. Everyone works from everywhere.
There's no edge.
There's no edge. There's no edge. Identity is much more important, but I still believe that endpoint security also, of course, has to be done correctly. I mean, you don't want your identity to be breached because of your device being breached. So
I agree. I think that at Insight we see 5 times as many cloud attacks as we see on the endpoint. It's not close. And with things like autopilot in Intune, and you can just, hey, I need a new computer, like you're done in hours maximum, right? And the fact that you can work anywhere on anything, as long as you set your conditional access policies up correctly. You're right. Wiping a device or isolating a device is relatively trivial. And for those of us who were here, Defender in 365 has that power. If you got business premium, you can isolate straight from the portal, right? But recovering an identity is extremely challenging and very, very noisy to find. Andrew, what's up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Kelvin referred to something.
Andrew, your audio knocked out.
Just lost it.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. So Kelvin referred to something from Sunil Yu. He talked about cattle, right? Replacing the device, but the identity being the crown jewels. I'm just putting in there for those of you that have ever heard of Sunil Yu, and if you haven't, please watch this video. It's about 40 minutes. He was one of the keynotes again this year at Right at Boom. Arguably, I think one of the brightest minds in the world when it comes to security. And he does a brilliant job. He creates these mental models, as he calls them, right, Wes? And one of those models that came out of the Cyber Defense Matrix, which is a book and something he created, is the DIE triad, where he talks about things that are immutable, right? And how to implement, really profound security around this principle called DIE. He's like, we think about, he has a great play on words. I'll hand it back to you, Stephen, but he talks about, we all learn, in CISSP about the CIA triad. And he's like, the CIA is DIE, and he goes into defensible, immutable, ephemeral, which is what the DIE stands for. So appreciate you bringing that analogy up, Kelvin. It's so relevant, I think, in today's day and age.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. All right. So one more before I give it back to Wes, because I need to give myself a minute here too. So Kelvin, we've seen token theft. We've seen OAuth abuse. We've seen agent changing. We've seen conditional access bypassing, which is probably related to the other two. Which one do you think is becoming the most popular and why?
Token theft, because it's the easiest to perform. Any script kiddie in the basement can perform token theft these days, which is why you need something like passkeys, FIDO2, authenticator app to protect yourself. There's a myriad of phishing-resistant authentication methods available, and they're all super simple. I mean, this is something that was very surprising to me at my MSP, but I was talking with my security guy, and he was like, yeah, we're implementing passkeys everywhere. And I was like, isn't that going to be like super annoying to users? And like, isn't that going to have a massive impact? And then he told me that most users, especially if you're using an Android phone at this point in time, already have passkeys enforced because they pop it up on every single website you go to. They simply use the passkey API to show you like, hey, this website allows you to log in with a passkey. Would you like to do this? Yes, done, configured. Like the ease of implementing all of this stuff is so much higher. So that's something that MSPs really have to watch for. That the implementation cost of it is becoming so much easier to do phishing resistant MFA. So token theft is going to remain huge. It's going to really remain huge.
It's so easy. And so, Wes, I'm sorry, but I want to pull on this
No,
just a
please.
little bit longer. So, Kelvin, you have long spoken about token protection in 365 for a long time. I think it's still in preview, but want to give us like a little tiny bit on that so everybody can understand?
It's no longer in preview.
Oh, is it not? Oh, good.
It's out of preview. Officially, token protection is called continuous access evaluation. And what it does, it creates extra information in the token, attaching it to a specific device. That extra information is IP address, location information, all things that Microsoft is able to collect and to add onto the token. That's a conditional access configuration setting that you can set up and completely stop token theft in its tracks. However, it has an implementation cost like everything else. So make sure that before you implement it, you understand what risks are involved. It's super easy, and it's actually also available for people without conditional access. So the moment that you have per user MFA configured, the cheap free version of MFA, you can still use continuous access evaluation.
That's awesome. I can imagine it would be a little challenging on mobile if IP addresses are going to keep changing. You've mentioned this, so I'm calling you out on that one. But it is a very, very powerful tool for effectively what is just simply a man-in-the-middle attack stealing a token, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Appreciate that. All right, Wes, I'm going to give it back to you for a little bit.
Cool. Let's talk about the SIP certification. So I know that kind of released at the pre-day. At the pre-day. So what exactly is it? What's been reception for it, and what kind of outcomes come with that, Kelvin?
Starting with the second one, because the reception was the one that shocked me most. It was, wow. People were lining up for the entire SIP certification. We did the bootcamp as a pre-day. It was somewhat compressed because we put 4 hours of content in 2.5 hours. So we really had to make sure that we delivered the content in the perfect way for everyone to still have it be understandable and teach them about the actual M365 way to do it. Because that's the cool thing about the SIP certification. We don't just say, you need to know how to use our product. We say you need to know how to manage M365. And by managing M365, you know how our product works as well, because we focus on the same core concepts. So we explain everything in the M365 portal. We show you this is the SIP alternative to it. And then we help you understand exactly what actions you're performing in a very practical bootcamp way. The SIP certification journey is also attached to Microsoft's exam system. You have to get at least a entry-level exam by Microsoft. They call that the foundational exams, I believe. So, for example, MS 900 or AZ 900, one of the foundational exams is needed before you're able to get SIP certified. And then when you do get SIP certified, it's just an add-on on you have this M365 knowledge already. Let me show you how our product utilizes M365. It was amazing being able to kickstart it at Right of Boom. Andrew, Ashley, and I have spoken a lot about it because the entire SIP certification journey was created by my business partner, Ashley Cooper. Where we're going to start doing this as a roadshow format to be able to bring it to people. We're going to try to maybe do some virtual training. We're still really at the moment trying to discover what's going to be the best way to utilize this for everyone. So it's a lot of, we want actual Microsoft training to be practical for people with a little bit of an add-on of our own product on top of that. And Steve was in the training, so I hope that he enjoyed it.
I did, very much,
Okay.
sir.
Awesome.
What, Steve, I'll flip it to you. What would you say to an MSP that says, what outcomes should I expect if I send my people to SIP certification?
Yeah, so the thing that I think is most important is knowing what you don't know. Kelvin has an amazing ability, and the SIP product, of course, has an amazing ability to find all the things that are very, very important. Inside 365, we all know there's hundreds of thousands of different settings on 14 different pages, and everything's called Defender or Copilot. So it's really, really hard to figure out exactly what you need to set where. And Kelvin is correct. Conditional access policies are extremely complex and very easy to, crush your entire tenant with. So it's really great to be able to go into this type of a training and say, okay, I understand about token theft. I understand about device persistence. I understand about user agents. I understand about autopilot and a couple of things in Intune that enforce BitLocker type stuff. That's great. And as we were talking earlier, I understand the 5 checkboxes in the 2 or 3 portals that make a huge difference. Those are just things people don't always know. And that's a really, really big deal to be able to go. It's something you can actually go back as a working MSP and say, cool, we can change these 2 or 3 things across all of our clients and dramatically increase their security today. And there's a bunch of types of presentations at Right of Boom, and some of them are for leaders or sales professionals or CISOs or whatever the case is. But there are very few things we can go back down and say, I can go change this thing right now and have a measurable impact on all of my client security. And the SIP training is where I learned a lot of that kind of stuff. It's really nice to be able to go do this thing now. Actionable immediately.
Right. Okay. Oh, Kelvin, I thought you were going to say something. Sorry, I paused.
No, I had my microphone muted, so I was just moving it a little.
Got it. Okay. I appreciate that feedback, Steve, because I think MSPs need to know, why should we be interested in pursuing this and chasing after it otherwise? Kelvin, one last question for you, and then I'm going to let you go and let Steve continue to grill you. You get the ability, you get the superpower to enforce one single control or process in SIP that everyone gets universally. What would it be?
Oh,
he does have that power.
Theoretically, I do. This is a hard one because I want to say that I want it to be focused on identity security, but the biggest problem about that is the impact it will have on users and businesses worldwide. So the moment I say I'll apply conditional access everywhere correctly, the business impact of that is going to be insane. It's I guess if the one control that I could implement for MSPs, not their clients, is to enforce multi-factor authentication on every single thing that they use. Everything. Make sure SSO is being used with Entra ID, Azure ID for the people who don't know what Entra is. That would be my one thing. Protect the identity so much more. It's a difficult one because I have a lot of other opinions, stuff like applying correct Intune baseline policies. There's I think our SIP standards have 170 different things that we want to change in tenants as a recommendation. So there's a lot.
Okay.
So I want to focus on 2 things on that. One, Kelvin, many people are asking you in chat to post the guest enumeration disablement and the 2 portals with the 5 checkboxes. So there's that.
Yeah, of course.
Also, everyone, I want to shout out Mr. Bulbolic here from Black Hills Information Security. I know we've spoken about him a lot, but he actually has something called MFA Sweep, which will check to see if your MFA is on everywhere. And I just posted a link to his GitHub. So Bo, don't kill me if I crush your GitHub. I'm sorry.
That's stellar.
Yeah, Bo is the whole Black Hills team is amazing. If you haven't heard John Strand talk about how cows are made of leather, I'm completely serious about this. He's an amazing speaker. But I kind of wanted to. We're running kind of low on time, so I wanted. This was a question I had for Kelvin, but I kind of want to talk to the 4 of us about it. I'll go last on it. Everybody, and I'll start with Kelvin. What is the most painful 365 breach you've seen recently, and what simple thing would have prevented it? And I want to go. I'm going to do Kelvin, Wes, Andrew, and then myself.
This was a pretty hard one. This was actually at our client, Insider Fred. They fired their it was co-managed IT, and they fired their system administrator. The day he left, he created a conditional access policy that locked everyone out. Everyone. Not even completely malicious. He just missed a little setting somewhere. But it locked everyone out. And it's not a breach, it's more of an insider threat thing, but it was one of the most painful experiences because there's only one solution to that, normally speaking. If you don't use SIP, you have to contact the Microsoft breach team, and they start helping you, the data recovery team it's called. It can take up to 2 weeks to get your tenant unlocked. Imagine being without your email for 2 weeks, or you're without your calendar, or without anything if you use SSO. It's a horrifying thought. Luckily, luckily we had SIP available, and we were able to just say like disable this policy because it's able to access using application credentials. But that was pretty insane. So that's the one thing that pops to mind right now, because that was one of the moments where even my team was like, did we do something stupid or what was going on here? So that's
pretty good. Wes, you got any cool stories?
I'm racking my brain these days at Empath. I am so pleasantly out of the trenches. Yeah. So give me a minute to think. No, that's okay. And I'll pass it over to Andrew.
Andrew, you got any ones you heard of?
Yeah, the ones I see and hear day in and day out still, Stephen, are really the things around token hijacking. It just seems that what I think, I'm not going to give you like the ridiculously easy whatever the exact question was, but what I see, the combination of how good the token hijacking is getting, along with the web creation tools from AI, the mirroring of websites and the look and feel with I'm drawing a blank on some of the web developing.
Evil AI. Engine X, man.
What's that?
Evil Engine X will do it. That'll mirror websites.
That's the token, right? But I'm saying, but then you have to have like a spitting image type landing site, and like I said, I'm drawing a blank on some of the AI web development tools.
Like Lovable, for example.
Lovable, thank you. That was the one that was coming to mind, Kelvin. You literally, like, again, you, me, Wes, and most of the people on this call will go, okay, I'm going to look at, where I'm being redirected. If I was to get this phishing email, I'll look at who it's from. But the average user, the ability to get phished these days with these solutions is pretty damn good. That's all I would say.
So mine's real similar to that one. We I'm probably gonna be a little bit closer than Wes is, so I may have put him on the spot there. So sorry.
It's okay.
But we had someone get their token compromised. They phishing email, except they were a global admin with GDAP relationships to all of their 47 financial services tenants. This was a client, not an MSP, one of our clients. Global admin got compromised, took out, and therefore had access to every one of their tenants through GDAP. And that was a tremendous amount of account resets. I think it was like 700, because you could GA. They could do whatever they want. They can see whatever they want to do. And so we had to go through all the tenants, reset everything, clear everybody's multi-factor. We kept seeing sporadic, weird multi-factors pop up in there. That's another thing to check, everybody's to make sure your multi-factor is only devices you recognize if you're doing an account reset. It was really, really painful. And it was because somebody never separated privileges, right? Their standard everyday user account was a GA. And that's unfortunate. Maybe that's another thing you could take back and fix right now. Make a separate account for admins.
Thank you for sharing that. I think those are the horror stories I think we all need to hear. I mean, some of that harkens back to the most old school of stalwart security practice from the early days, but it's important to hear that.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Fundamentals will never stop mattering.
That's right.
Security, IT, all of it.
That's right.
Yeah, cool. For sure. Steven, you want to hit Kelvin with
we'll do one more
bonus question there on Copilot? It's one that I'd love to get his take on.
Sure. So Kelvin, Copilot scares the heck out of me, right? Imagine somebody gets their account breached and they have Copilot and there's like a ready-made reconnaissance tool for you right there. But assuming we need to have it, how should MSPs be implementing Copilot? And should the first step be an assessment of the data or assessment of permissions or something in Purview? What does it look like to start qualifying Copilot?
MSPs that aren't looking at their clients' data at the moment in regards to labeling, in regards to data security compliance, should not be touching Copilot at all. And that's weird advice coming from a Microsoft MVP that normally recommends every single Microsoft product under the sky. But like, there is no way that you can honestly implement a tool that is going to look at every single piece of data available to it without understanding what those boundaries are. So an MSP should be focused on learning purview, learning things like, how do I create labeling policies? How do I create data retention policies? How do I do data loss prevention? Bob Miller just said data labeling policies. These are all things that people 100% actively need to do before they can start thinking about implementing something like Copilot. And it's not just Copilot. It's any AI that's going to get access to your M365 environment. OpenAI has an M365 connector. Don't use it until you understand exactly how it's going to utilize your data. What's your AI use policy is a question that everyone should be asking. Kevin just said so on LinkedIn. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, it's weird how, we were talking years ago about data classification, data identification, but now it's a must. And
it's a must, 100%. Yes.
Sure. Well, Kelvin, thanks a million for coming on. I know it's later in the day there for you.
No worries.
And great recap. Wes, thanks for coming on as well.
Thanks for having me.
Steven, great to see you. Everybody out there, thanks for joining us. We'll get this queued up. It'll be back to replay and share immediately on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and then we'll get it on podcasts for you in the next 24 hours or so. So until next Monday, make it a great day, everybody. Take care.